Hi everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the new year, year 2022 of our Lord. And if you know me, you know why that's funny that I say it that way. Okay, if you know me at all. So to my friends, 2022 of our Lord.
Are you Jesus Christ?
No.
Oh my God, you are! You're Jesus Christ!
No.
Okay. You know, I shouldn't start out the year with a private joke, but I did. Anyway, this is a great show. We're starting out with a brand new episode of Musicians on Couches Drinking Coffee. And who do I have on the show today but two rock legends. Two rock legends. And I got to give credit where credit is due. This is my producer, if you haven't met him yet, Walter Wannabe. He's really worked the phones hard on this one. And that's surprising because most of the time, he does the bare minimum. He really does. Okay, enough of that cornball stuff. Anyway, if you were alive during the 70s, somewhat the 80s, but the 70s, then you know this band. You know this phrase, well, that was the soundtrack of my youth. Well, these two guys created the grooves for my youth and maybe your youth too. We have Steve Fossen, the bass player, and Mike Derosier, the drummer of the band Heart. And I'm hesitant to say the original because there was a version of Heart prior to them. However, these were the guys that played on the songs we love. Crazy on You, Magic Man, Barracuda, a host of others, all those great songs that Heart was putting out in the 70s that really made Heart a rock thing. They were a thing. I can remember hearing Magic Man for the first time on WNEW FM in New York. Way back when. I couldn't tell you the exact year. But listening to it on my receiver in my bedroom, I was probably 13, 14, maybe 15, and thinking, oh yeah, ba-dum-dum, ba-dum-dum, you know, that groove. And these guys were laying it down. And as you will hear them explain, they actually were involved in the writing process and did get co-writing credit on several of those old tunes. Anyway, let's get right to it. It's a really good interview. Yes, if you grew up with Heart, you need to watch this. So let's start out with a couple of clips from the band, from some old live cuts I found on YouTube. And let's even put in some of their new band, which is Heart by Heart, and they're doing the old tunes again. And that's a band that Steve and Mike are both in. They are now settled in the Washington State area. And so we'll put some clips of that as well. And then, of course, there'll be a commercial in here because all you guys need to buy a hoodie. I got a lot of big plans this year and you need to help me out. Buy a hoodie, buy a t-shirt, or just send me money. Man, you know, this is getting hard to do. Anyway, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy this show. A good Musicians on Couches interview with Steve Fossen, Mike Derosier, the bass player and drummer for the band Heart. Let's go. So welcome to Musicians on Couches Drinking Coffee. That's the name of the show, stolen from Seinfeld. You're in good company. Over the last few weeks and months, we've had Carmine Appice, Mark Farner, Jim McCarty from the Yardbirds. Coming up is Alan Hewitt, who plays with Moody Blues, and he's got like 170 film and TV scores. So you're in good company. Anyway, your agent was telling me a whole bunch of stuff about what you guys are doing now, and I want to talk about it. You ready?
Yeah, all ready.
So where you guys located now? Where you?
Seattle, Washington, yeah.
Huh?
Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington. And the band that you're doing is Heart by Heart.
Yes.
And is that a touring band, or is it playing like? Are you doing more live streams? How's that working?
Well, we play basically it's a live band. Yeah, we go out and we tour around America, and of course we do a lot of shows in Washington too.
Right. So let's go way back to the beginnings of Heart. Now, Steve, you were there first.
Yes.
So, not to give away your age, but let's talk about it a little bit. How old were you, and what was going on, and where was that beginning to happen? And let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so Roger Fisher and I, we were friends starting in junior high school, 8th grade. And since he's a Fisher and I'm a Fossen, we were in homeroom together. And we became friends. And we shared we kept sharing our love for rock music. We just talk about it. And we'd sit, and then we'd dream like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to play an instrument and, get out on the bus and tour around and make songs, And so we kept talking. And finally, when we were sophomores in high school, we went out and we said, well, time to get our instruments. So he got a guitar and I got a bass. And oddly enough, we didn't play together for a couple of years because we were both, learning how to play instruments.
Right.
And then after school one day, we were walking to my parents' house. And we got to my parents' house. We were talking. He said, well, let's start a band. And I said, okay, let's do it. And we shook on it. We said, we're not stopping until we make it. All right.
All right.
We agreed on it. So, of course, you go through a different bunch of people because not every musician is dedicated and focused enough to want to make it. And then, of course, him and I, we were so ambitious that we were totally annoying to the other musicians in the band. So we just kept going through, we didn't go through a ton of members, but we went through enough members. And, it's nothing against their abilities or their whatever, their personalities or anything. It's just that they didn't have that drive.
Right.
And that drive, and it's like, what's your story about Julia Roberts?
Julia Roberts,
that actress.
Yeah.
It's showing up. And it's showing up, it's getting there and doing it. And a lot of people say, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and I can't do this, and of course, like I said earlier, we were so annoying because we were so focused and so ambitious.
Right. Well, it's also about sometimes even just stylistically. Like I'm a hired gun. I'm a drummer. I'm a hired gun for people. I used to tour with Dick Wagner. I don't know if you're familiar with that name. He played with Alice Cooper and Kiss and all that stuff. But I put together a Beatles tribute band that tours sometimes. And there's some dudes that just, like, I have a couple of bass players I've used, and their tone was just not the McCartney tone. And even I didn't even care if they did the lines perfectly, but they were playing more like sometimes even slapping. And that's just not a Beatles thing, right? So even though they were fine players and I played with them in other situations, I would take a break. I'm bad. I would take a break from the band and then like for a month, and then reform it with a different bass player, who was doing that.
Yeah. Well,
That's what it's about.
it's very important. And I own a 1962 Hofner bass. It's not a Beatle bass, but it's it's shaped more like a Les Paul, but it's the same year as the famous one that Paul plays all the time. And it sounds really similar. And playing and slapping is not an option on.
No, you can't do that stuff. And it's cool, but it shouldn't be in While My Guitar Gently Weeps. That should not happen at that tune, so.
Well, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, I believe that there's a big controversy about what bass is played on what song, but I believe it was a Fender jazz bass. That's
maybe, yeah.
Maybe. Highly muted. It's either palm muted or they have a mute built into the ashtray, is what they call them, that chrome piece over the bridge.
Well, and they did a lot of things too, where John played like that really low end, and Paul sort of doubled it later. There's a couple of things in the Get Back series where they do that, and I didn't realize they were doing that. They did like 2 lines.
Yeah, they had that Fender 6-string bass.
Yeah.
In between the bass and the guitar.
All right, so let's move fast forward a little bit. Now when Heart Kind of Forms, I read, there was a couple of drummers before Mike. So had you known Mike previous to that? Did you invite him in? Because like I'll always invite, if I'm the drummer, I'll often invite the bass player that I like to play with whoever I'm working. If they ask me, hey, we need a bass player for this gig, we'll use this guy. And because I like playing with him. So what was going on there?
Well, back in our day, when bands formed, I mean, it was a band, and bands didn't have, we didn't say, well, hey, let's have a different guitar player this week and a new
right.
Week after. You were in a band, and that was the band, and people didn't really have other bands at that time. But no, I did not know Mike. We heard of him through a mutual friend who was a very good fan of the band Heart. And at the time, we did a lot of Led Zeppelin, and he said, "Oh, wow, I have this friend, Mike Derosier, and he's really into Bonham, and he would fit in your band really perfectly." And we were really having trouble with our drummers at that time. We had hooked up with Mike Flicker, and Mike Flicker's a drummer also, and he didn't. There's several drummers that we had in our band that he did not like. He did not like the drummer, and he wouldn't allow them in the studio to play. So we had studio musicians, and one of the studio
harsh.
Yeah, and then one of the studio musicians, Duras Maxwell, he joined the band for a while, but his personality and everything didn't work. It worked with me because I'm a bass player, but it didn't work so much with Mike Fisher and Ann Wilson and Roger Fisher and Nancy Wilson. I'll leave it at that. So we heard about Mike, and we thought, oh man, cool. So we were doing a gig at Aquarius, which was the famous tavern here, close. You checked us out first before we checked you out, right?
Yeah. I didn't know anything about you guys. Never seen you before.
Yeah. So we hit it off pretty well, and then a couple weeks later, or maybe a week later, or whatever, we all went over to Mike's parents' house, and we said hi to Mom and Dad. And Edgar, his dad, is quite a character, and he was nice. He was sitting in the chair. Yeah, go on back. He's back in the bedroom back there. So.
Remote one in.
Yeah, and we went back there. He had his maple Ludwig set up, and he just played for a little while, and we went, I'm sold.
Well, you know, and listening to Hart over the years, you definitely had that Bonham sound. So let's talk about your entrance into the band. So what was the dynamic coming in? Were there, because they definitely had, I reading the history, they definitely gone through a few drummers. And as Steve was talking about, some of the, and didn't get along with some of them or whatever was going on with that. And so how was your dynamic into entering the band? Did you feel comfortable? And I noticed I don't think you played on the entire album of Deep Dreamboat Annie, right? You played on parts of it though, right?
A couple of songs, yeah.
A couple of songs, yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Coming in, the feeling, and did they use session guys? What was happening with that on Dreamboat Annie?
Yeah, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know really even the circumstances of what was going on. Just learned, what was the first song? Was it White Lightning, the first one, or was it?
Sing Child or White Lightning?
Yeah.
I think it was Sing Child was first.
And we just ran through it. And the weird thing for me was probably the fact that I'm playing a different drum set. I was used to you being a drummer. You know how that can be kind of.
Right.
My set is usually open, you know, with that. I mean, no pillow, no hole, no padding or any of that kind of stuff. And then flicker, you know, these are the drums that you play. I worked up the song playing this other drum set, and it feels, you know how different a drum set feels,
right.
Studioized kind of. And so that was weird for me because I was not used to playing a drum set that had like the wallet on the snare and the pillow and the bass drum and all that stuff.
Right.
So a whole different feel, a different sound, but it was an adventure. It was really exciting too. It was really cool because I thought everybody in the band was great, and they were, you know, like Steve was saying earlier, they were dedicated and had a purpose. A lot of the guys that I played with, we kind of floated around trying to figure out. We tried to write some songs, do some gigs here, played a bowling alley, you know, played a drive-in theater, kind of a bouncing around, no real direction. And it was cool that these guys were.
What's so impressive is when you get the right chemistry. I mean, all the hits that were just popping out. You know, Magic Man, Crazy on You, and I mean, just what I think the first 3 albums or something were million sellers or something like that. I mean, that's like, so what were you doing prior to Heart? And then you get into Heart, and now Nuclear Explosion. You know what I mean? I love that psychology because I had a different career. Mine is more work. Like I did Carnival Cruise Lines. I toured with Godspell. Mine was do the audition, read the chart, go do the gig. And with Dick Wagner, I definitely played some large theaters and stuff like that, but never going from the club to like with Mark Farner, Shea Stadium. Like that never kind of happened. So I want to hear, what were you doing prior to Heart? And then you get in, and it wasn't that long of a time after you get in where Heart blows up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
I was working at a place called Phase Linear. I don't know if you remember the amplifier company that made amplifiers.
Oh, all right.
And that's where I met. That's where I knew the 2 people that Steve was talking about earlier, friends of theirs. They we would just lunchtime we would talk, and they I was thinking about getting in another band and trying to find somebody that was, you know, into songwriting, trying to have some kind of a direction of it, actually take it seriously. And so they said, yeah, we know these guys that are doing originals. You should go check them out. So I went up to this club and saw them play, and there was no doubt in my mind these guys were just head and shoulders above everything else that I had seen around town, except for maybe the Kingsmen or Merrily Rush. I don't know if you know.
Right.
Some people that had made some noise themselves, but yeah, I was just working at a shop, a factory, and then doing some recording with Heart. It was a big step, a big jump.
So for the both of you, was there a moment with Heart where you felt like, okay, we're rock stars now. Like that's the thought I always like to hear about. Like they were okay, yeah, this is it now. We got it. And then could you think? Is there a particular for you, Steve? Like a particular moment where you thought, I don't know, was it a place you were playing, or was it the money or the amount of sales of albums, and you thought, okay, yeah, I did it now. This is it. I got to where I wanted to be.
Well, you never really get to where you want to be, but here, the epiphany for me was, we were a club band, and Mike and Howard joined, while we were doing Dreamboat Nanny, and we still were playing clubs, but we interjected, a few little tours, like opening up for the Bee Gees and stuff around British Columbia. So there's a few little inklings of success, like, oh wow, we get to open up for, And so we did a show in Calgary, Alberta, at the place called the Inferno. And we got there on a Monday night, and we just didn't click with the owner at all. And by Thursday night, he called us in. He says, well, this is your last night, guys. You're just not working out for my club. So
didn't we make a small mess in the dressing room?
Well,
a couple of
we were
issues.
So the first thing that happens when you walk into this dressing room is there's a big wall with all the rules, written in great big letters, and so, it's kind of, wow, rules. Anyway, so we get fired, right? So we're kind of like, oh shit. I'm sure Mike and Howard were going like, holy fuck, we just joined this band, and then we get fired at a club.
Right.
So we go back to the hotel, and we're all sitting in the hotel kind of moping, and then we get a knock on the door, and they say, hey guys, come here, come to the room, So we went to, I think it was Mike Fisher's room, or Mike and Ann's room, and on the phone was the record company, Shelley Siegel, and he said, hey, can you guys get out of the gig this weekend? Because I just worked out that you guys can open up for Rod Stewart and the Faces in Montreal and Toronto. We went, get up. We just got fired.
We probably worked that out.
So we jumped on a scenic cruiser, and we went to the first show was in Montreal, the big gigantic forum there, whatever they call it, the big ice rink and, sports arena. And so it was at 18,000 people, So we get there, we do our sound check, and, and then we're getting all ready to play, and we get out, and it's all dark, and then we turn on the lights, ladies and gentlemen, heart, and everybody, yeah, okay, yeah. And then we played Magic Man. And after Magic Man, we got this, I've never heard such a gigantic applause and ovation and screaming and everything. And I get goosebumps thinking about it right now. But yeah, that's the moment I thought to myself, okay.
This is different.
Yeah.
This is different than playing in Calgary at the club.
Right.
Yeah, so from that moment on, it was just once, it was like on a ladder. We just went up and up and up and up. And that was the moment for me that really.
Now you don't have to love me, and let's get high a while. But try to understand. Try to understand. Try to understand. He's a magic man.
I've spent the last 30 years of my life teaching, and I teach mostly 10-year-olds. So one of the things I do in the recitals is I have the kids play The End, and I get a guitar player to come in for the Beatles and do the little Ringo solo. That's like their first recital they do, and it's cool to see the little 10-year-olds. They walk off when they get an applause because the parents recognize bum 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 bum. They just walk off the drums with like a swagger. Yeah, I just did that. And I love to see like an 11-year-old just go, yeah, that was me. That was me. So it's a good feeling. So this is my official Spider-Man approved clipboard with the Spider-Man approved questions. He was here last night to get to some of these questions because he gets very mad. He's mad at me anyway because I think he found out that me and Marissa Tomei, his aunt, have a little thing. She doesn't know about it, but we do anyway. So
take it like this, and the way this case is going, I ain't never getting married.
Anyway, so Mike, I definitely, you can hear I want to know about the songwriting a little bit, and I played, like, there's some things I did with Dick Wagner when I did some of his work, his albums, where he really wanted a particular thing from me, and sometimes he just let me do what I wanted to do, and it was fine. And particularly, I'm thinking of the song Barracuda, where it's a great song, but you also definitely hear the Zeppelin influence, especially in the drums. That is right out of the Bonham playbook, and I love it. But I have nothing. They say about me when people come to, I've said 3 times that if Gad and Bonzo had a baby, that's who I would be. So that's what my thing, what people say to me. So with the songwriting, did Ann or Nancy or whatever's going on say, could you play it this way or play it that way? Or was it up to you to just do what you were thinking inside?
Well, Barracudas, it's interesting that you picked that. I'm not surprised. A lot of people do. It's something that Raj and I would just kind of mess with at sound checks, and that's sort of how the whole thing started. Just me playing a beat, just half a paradiddle, that.
Right.
It's been used a trillion times, but it works for what Raj came up with, and just kind of the way that it fit together. And then we get together with the band, and Nancy and Ann put a bunch of cool stuff lyrically and melodically. I mean, they added tons to it, obviously, but I can't remember. There's a bunch of songs where the groove is very similar, and I can't remember exactly if I started playing the beat first or Rod started doing the changes, whatever. It sort of happened kind of naturally, and I think it probably was him. And then I just, with the bass drum pattern, just kind of followed what he was doing. And
Right.
And interestingly enough, Mike was given writing credits.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that. That's cool.
People don't, but he has.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Heart tunes. I listen to that one all the time. And not to give away age things, but I definitely remember being 15 in my room practicing that groove.
yeah,
And okay, because I was a big Zeppelin fan and I needed to get that one down because it reminded me of that bag. So back to the song, I think for both of you, was the songwriting in that band a real collaboration, or were they bringing you things and say, here it is, and then you played with it, or was this a real, the bunch of you to get together and hash it out?
all of the above.
Yeah, all of that.
All the
Yeah.
above.
A lot of times, Ann and Nancy would come in. We would get together, and they would have some songs really close to being done, and we just would do our thing. They were, as far as, even with stuff that they sort of had a notion about, they were very cool as far as, I think we just added our own character to whatever they brought. If they brought in something like that was new, and we just kind of worked it up, sort of arranged it. They were cool about just letting us do our thing. I can't remember really any time where, I guess they just sort of trusted our judgment and how we approached the song.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So, and the band was really sort of, you kind of had that harder Zeppelin-y kind of rock stuff, and then you had a lot of the folk stuff that was on the albums. They were like together. And so then let's fast forward a little bit as the band's moving out and you guys are playing together. So then the 80s come, and this is where it sort of splits up, and the power ballad and the more pop ballad comes. And so, and that's when was it Ann and Nancy wanted to kind of go off on their own and do that, and that's what broke it up, or there was just being tired of being the Heart, the band. What was happening about in that dynamic? Was it difficult playing together? That time.
Ooh, that's a
touchy
subject. That's a low.
All right.
Is he around? Oh, I don't see him. Okay. Yeah. Watch this commercial coming up, and you'll hear the answer to the question about the breakup of Heart. right after that, and then, maybe you can buy some T-shirts and hoodies, and maybe he'll pay me finally. Maybe he'll pay me finally. He doesn't pay me at all. He complains, but he doesn't pay me at all. And by the way, Marissa Tomei, if you're watching, give me a call.
Musicians on Couches, the Drum Mission now has products. We have T-shirts. We have hoodies. We have this T-shirt that I'm showing you somewhere. Maybe I'm just talking over it. I don't know what I'm going to decide to do. Where on the front you get the coffee mug. Notice the bass clef handle. The graphics, I had help with that with the great Paula Robinson. Give her a call if you need some graphic work. Pay her a lot of money. The back of the T-shirt, as I'm showing you somewhere, I don't know where, is the phrase "drinking coffee." Musicians on Couches, drinking coffee. We also have a T-shirt with just the logo, and it's a polo shirt kind of, just the logo of the Drum Mission. Take a look at that. And we also have my favorite, the hoodie. The Musicians on Couches, Drinking Coffee hoodie. Yes, 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 yes. Send your information, sizes, and how many you need to the email address that I'm posting here. That's right. The hoodies will be selling for $39.99. And the T-shirts will be selling for $19.99. That is right. And if you order just one, I got to put a $5 postage and handling thing on it. If I got to ship it to you, if you're local, I'll deliver it. If you order more than one, forget the postage and handling. It's on me, baby. All right. Support the channel. We need your help. I thought this product pretty much looked cool. You might like it. Order your T-shirts today. Thank you.
But at the time, Ann and Nancy were they were kind of going in this certain direction that they wanted to go in, and they were kind of, it felt like we were kind of being dragged into something that we didn't really feel all that aggressive or rock. The Private Edition album, it's kind of a testimonial to what we thought at the time was that they needed to stick to the formula that got us where we were, instead of trying to go off in this poppy. I don't know. I can't even.
Yeah,
I can't even
it's hard to
explain it.
describe because it was so all over the place, and yeah.
But maybe they were tired of us, our personalities, and after a while, you get tired of the same dynamic with, and one thing about them is that they wanted every increment of time, they wanted more control and more control and more control and more control. And it was, it was kind of annoying because, back when we formed and all the years, like the Dreamboat Annie years, the magazine years of the Dog and Butterfly and the Little Queen years, it was one for all and all for one. And we, everybody was pulling, everybody was hooked up to the same team, and then we were all pulling. And then all of a sudden the money gets in there, and then people figure out, well, gee, if we give Mike some percentage on this song, and we give somebody else some percentage on that song, and we're not going to make any money anymore.
Right.
So, they just wanted control, and you can't blame them in a way. But the people in our industry that said to themselves, "Well, I'm making tons of money anyway. I don't care if Bill Wyman gets some credit or John Paul Jones gets some credit.
Right.
It doesn't make any difference to me. If it makes them feel better, makes them want to try harder, then I'm all in for that." And, it just got to the point where, it's like the pirate ship where they all get together and they capture the big ship with the gigantic gold chest. And then all of a sudden, no, geez, if there's 20 less pirates, I get more of the share, so.
Right.
It's kind of weird that way, but in the same light, what the deals that we cut back with the corporation that we had at the time, the Heart Partnership, I mean, everybody's lived up to their end of the bargain so far. So, you know, we still get our percentage of the albums that we played on. And
Right.
we're still doing really well. And, you know, Sony and Capitol and everybody else is made.
By the way, I've watched some clips of Heart by Heart, particularly Barracuda, and sounds great. The new lineup, everything you got going with Heart by Heart sounds fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Barracuda sounded just amazing, just like it was back then. Very good. So it happens. It splits up. So what do you guys do? Do you stay together? Or you stay working together? Do you start producing things? What happens there with you? Because I know there's a big gap between that and then the forming of Heart by Heart. So what happens then for you guys? How do you keep continuing?
Yeah, God, it's, you know, you think about the time span between Heart and when we left and now. Oh, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of time for going, playing in different bands and doing different things. I had a farm for about 20 years. I was
Oh, that's cool.
that and
And like what kind of farm? Tell me about the farm.
apple orchard.
Huh? Say it again.
I had an apple orchard.
An apple orchard? Wow. That's cool. So had you always been into that, or was that something that started afterward? You decided to just do it, or?
It was just sort of one. I bought this place because I liked. When I was a kid, we used to vacation in Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington is very different from over here, from the west side of the mountains. You go over there, it's kind of plains and desert and farming kind of areas. And so I liked it over there. And I bought this place, and one thing led to another. A guy got me into planting some trees, and so I just got into it. It's a whole different world. It's very interesting, but it's a lot of work.
Did you continue playing just on your own? Just
yeah, I was playing with a guy, doing some clubs around town and stuff. Still playing, and I was teaching some, but I would go back and forth from Seattle to my farm, and it got to be too much, and it's just I'm too. I have to have a certain amount of casual in my life.
right.
It got to be, there's too much responsibility with. I mean, farming, man, you got to do it, or it punishes you. I mean, you got to stay on top of things. If you don't tend to the stuff that needs to be done when it needs to be done, it just haunts you. So
Right.
I did that for a long time. Then I got some guys to do it. It was still a lot of work. So
That's cool though. I like hearing all the other things that because musicians, we're regular people too. Like, people don't realize that we just have the one thing that we do. So I want to talk about the experience with the Hall of Fame, where you guys kind of reunite after a really long time and get to do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That had to be kind of cool. So do you get a call from Ann or Nancy? How does that sort of happen?
you say reunited. That's a lofty term to use to describe how that went down.
Okay. I think I read it on Google. So
Yeah.
you describe about how that sort of happened, the Hall of Fame, because I think that would be cool to play there, inducted.
Yeah, I don't think we actually heard directly from Ann or Nancy. We just heard through the grapevine and through different entities that. I mean, there was some doubt for a while whether we were even going to be playing together. So, and then it was announced that we would be playing Crazy on You, and that their current band that they called Heart would play Barracuda at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so, I mean, we didn't like it, but what could we do? There was nothing we could do about it.
Right.
Because that's Ann was in control, or Nancy or whoever. But the experience of being inducted was very heady and cool, and because you're all of a sudden, I mean, because between the time we left Heart and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, nobody really, I mean, they didn't really talk about Mike Derosier or Steve Fossen all that much. It was just, you know, it was Ann and Nancy, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And then once the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame happened, it was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that you guys were, you know, you did all that, you know, and stuff. So, and it was kind of a validation of all the work, the hard work that we've done all those years, and all, you know, because people still love the music that we created from those albums, and there's no denying it. And people, you know, I mean, I hear it all the time, and I'm sure Mike does too, that, you know, they think that original 6 with Howard, Raj, Mike, and I, and Nancy, of course, was their favorite version of Heart.
Right.
And everybody, a lot of people think that those are the best albums that Heart came out with, and the best songs. And I don't know, it's cool.
So then what happens? How does Heart by Heart, whose idea was that first? Was it yours? Did you call Mike? How does that work out?
Well, I met Summer when Mike and I we played a party downtown, and we were going to do some Heart songs. And Summer was the vocalist that was chosen to sing with us, because we hadn't played the Heart material for a long time. I mean, in the meantime, like when Mike was doing his farm, I was a mountaineer. I was climbing mountains all around Washington State. And so I met Summer, and then over the course, we met in February, and then over the course of the spring, the summer, and the fall, we became friends. And then by the Christmas time of 2008, we decided to become a couple. And we started playing Heart songs together. It was just bass and vocal. I would play like Dog and Butterfly, and she'd sing to it. Just me playing bass and her singing. And then we got a call from a guy in Alaska, a good friend of ours, Bob Wynn, who wanted us to open up for Dwight Yoakam in Anchorage. And we said, sure, we'll do that. And then we thought about it for a minute. We said, well, geez, it's kind of light to do just 2 people. So we called up Mike, and we called up Randy Hansen. I don't know if you've ever heard of Randy Hansen before, but he's a Hendrix artist that we've known for years and years and years. And he's a great guitar player. And we put together a bunch of Heart, 45 minutes of Heart stuff. And we said, okay, we're all ready to go to Anchorage. And they said, oh, too bad, Dwight canceled. But, we had our little group together, and it was fun to play the old Heart material. So So we rehearsed every once in a while, and then all of a sudden, another person had we played a benefit for Susan G. Komen breast cancer awareness, and there was quite a few people there. We raised quite a bit of money for the cause, and plus there were some fans there that told a booking agency about our band, and that booking agent was Craig Cook, and he started booking us all around Washington State. And then you get a website, you put your website together, and people see on the website, oh, it's Mike Derosier and Steve Fossen, they're playing, and so all of a sudden we started getting hired all around America to play.
So Mike, to bring you into just your side of the story. So you're doing the farming thing, you're playing some gigs, and you hear about this, some gigs with him doing the old heart stuff. Let's talk about that entrance and that re-entrance to that stuff.
Yeah, I've always liked playing, obviously, but I did the farming thing, and it was a big part of my time, taking up my time, and I like teaching too, but I just missed playing out. I wanted to be in a band, and what was the first gig that I did with
us?
I can't remember.
I think it was the Susan G. Komen.
What was it? Was
Yeah.
that the first one?
Yeah.
And I'd been doing some clubs occasionally with some guys, but I mean, there's just something about, and it doesn't. There are hard songs that I will always like to play, so it's not like, oh man, I'm doing that again. You know,
Right.
At some point you want to just move on, write new songs, or play other people's songs or whatever. But I don't. I mean, there's some hard songs that I don't look forward to playing too. You know how that goes. It's just lyrics, and we do a lot of stuff that I still enjoy playing. Still like playing out. I still like the energy of it and hanging with everybody. And so,
well, to be honest, I think it's a statement toward the music today. Not to be. I mean, I actually like Adele, and I like some of the stuff I'm hearing that's new from her and stuff like that. But even my little Beatles tribute band that plays really around the state, we play theaters and get standing ovations. And not to compare you to that, because you guys are original members, but the tribute band thing, I mean, I did a Pink Floyd tribute band thing for a while too, that would just travel around the country doing the Pink Floyd stuff. And people are coming out to hear that old stuff all the time. I mean, it's like there is a thing for that. And like, we do renditions of the Beatles stuff. We don't do exact copies, and I write a lot of the arrangements. And the first time we got a standing ovation, I was like shocked. I just couldn't believe that was actually happening for stuff that is 50, 60 years old now, that was getting that kind of when, Justin Timberlake and all these things happening now. And yet this old stuff is like still a major thing. Is that what you guys are finding as you're doing the heart by heart around the country, that the openness and the receptiveness to this time that is past now, but the music still carries?
Yeah, people love it. And when Mike and I and Summer were talking about, what we wanted the band to accomplish, the one thing we said was we want to stick to the original arrangements, the original keys. We wanted to create that nostalgia that, quite frankly, some of the other people, well, Ann and Nancy, they kind of drift off the original recordings and stuff, and we wanted to maintain that and to create the nostalgia and bring back the memories. And because that nostalgia thing doesn't click in your brain if you don't hear the things that you are expecting to hear, and we wanted to make sure that all those elements were included in our set.
I don't know what the legal ramifications would be, but I wonder, is there any possibility of producing either some kind of live disc or something of Heart by Heart?
It's just a matter of licensing the song with the publisher, and there you go. That's all.
That would be great. You'd have a sale right here. You'd have at least one download, or however you want to do it.
Okay.
So you shaping it, I saw you again. Barracuda.